Hello and welcome to International Affairs. My name is Shamsulam Pantho. On International Affairs, we discuss, analyze and theorize what the global news headlines are. But before we begin our discussion today, let me introduce my entire panelists who are here on this program. To my left is Mr. Shibli Islam Anendo, Department of Law from Rajshahi University. And alongside we have Dr. Rizwana Karim Snigdha, Department of Anthropology at Jahangirnagar University. And not only so, we have our geopolitical correspondent, Mr. Norman Floyd Barnes, joining us from Washington, D.C. I greet you all to the program here today. I want to begin the discussion with Mr. Norman Floyd Barnes, given that there has been a massive breakthrough this week. Of course, I'm talking and referring to Mr. Zoran Mamdani's win of the New York mayoral elections. And of course, people in New York are celebrating under the banner, and of course the title that CNN said, Mamdani Mubarak. Everyone is to the streets understanding where he stands as the upcoming mayor. Of course, my question to Mr. Norman Floyd Barnes, we know that Donald Trump, US President, has been throwing remarks such as that there is a communist regime that has been installed in New York City. And of course, it's not only so, that many New Yorkers are now thinking other places to reside, such as Miami. I want to understand how Mr. Norman Floyd Barnes feel about this issue.
Greetings from Washington, D.C. The election is over. The mayor, we have a new mayor in New York City, and the administration in Washington, D.C. Has conceded that he is the leader for the city, and we will have to coexist. The president mentioned that he will reduce some of the funding to the city because he is not in favor of the new mayor. So we are just waiting to see. One of the implications came out yesterday was the commissioner for the fire department, who is Jewish, submitted his resignation. So we're looking at a restructuring problem developing in the city, and also we're looking at a time for unification. So hopefully the unification process will oversee the disgruntled people.
Thank you, Mr. Norman Floyd Barnes. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to come to Mr. Shibli Islam. Of course, as you were hearing that the two sides, as Norman was saying, right now Donald Trump is in a position to reduce the funding that New York City is needed, which has a lot of legal matters and tendencies in this regard. How do you see the battle between the Big Apple in New York and, of course, Washington, D.C., the head of state of the federal government? What is your take on this issue?
Well, you have to understand the politics of New York is very different from the rest of America, the rest of the United States and other states. The politics of New York is between the battle between the Democrats and Democrats, the right wing of the Democrats and the left wing of the Democrats. Fortunately for the immigrants, the Mamdani won. Well, he's different because Donald Trump, he established a narrative during the last presidential election that Democrats represents only the aristocrats of the or the elites of New York. But he has broken that. He connected himself, the Mamdani, he connected himself with the new generation of New York, and he connected with the immigrants. And he has taken a mixed policy, a Democrats policy as well as Republican policy as well. And his opponent, who has been bitterly lost in the campaign within the Democratic Party. Later on, he has run the election independently. So his main agenda was that free bus services, universal health care, housing, like rent control of the housing, cheaper groceries. So these are the dreams that he was able to infuse among the young generations, and that turned the table on the election, and that turned the table on the election in such a way that it's a landslide victory. Now you have to understand where Donald Trump has got the ideas of imposing tariff. Basically, he is taking this idea from 1920 Republican government, because 1920 Republican government was headed by the President Warren Harding. He was basically a newspaper editor. He was a media person.
Right.
He started, he brought the women can vote. So first time in America, women voted in that election, and he was able to, convince the women voters, because his agenda was that I will bring back all the boys from the war. I will bring the boys home, and that won the heart of the women, and he got enormous support from the women, and
Right.
he was elected. And the agenda was that there will be no war. America will never engage in any other's war. He got the treaty with Austria, he got the treaty with Germany, he got the treaty with Turkey. So he brought all the boys to home, and he got all the peace treaties running, and he even cut down the navy, and his navy was only controlling in the shore that alcohol shouldn't be smuggled. So
Right.
that's what the main agenda was. That's what Donald Trump gains his energy from. You have to understand, Donald Trump was first introduced in politics by Parrott. Because Parrott was a politician during the reign of George W. Senior Bush.
Yes.
Senior Bush was advocating NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement between the Canada and Mexico.
Right.
And Parrott was dead against it. He was advocating for GATT. He was advocating for free trade area. He was advocating, in bigger picture, neoliberalism. So you have to understand what neoliberalism is all about. Neoliberalism is about freeing everything. Free trade, free agreement, no taxes, no minimum wages. So at the end of it, in 92 election, Parrott was dead against the older Bush policy. On that time, the one young man was recruited in the reformist agenda of Republican Party. That is the New York party speculator, property speculator Donald Orange, here, New York
Yes.
property speculator Donald Trump. So he was inspired in 1992 to join in politics that there will be no free trade, only tariffs will be imposed, and you have to make America again. So that's history. That's how he has been inaugurated in the politics. So
Yes.
that's how he gets his energy, gets his enthusiasm, and gets his ideas about imposing tariff. So that's what's going on. Because what happened in terms of neoliberalism, the Parrott used to go to the borders of Mexico and borders of Canada and used to say, look at the sound, just hear the sound that's been going on in the factories of Mexico and factories of Canada. They're sucking all the jobs. Because that's how America has lost, to the communism of China. Because of the free trade, China has taken over the factories.
Right.
Because of the free trade, Europe has imposed or infused the cheap goods to United States of America. That's what Donald Trump was able to convince the people of United States of America, that if you vote for me, then I will bring that change. I will bring that change. But end of the day, the famous Republican government that he follows from 1920 to 1932, that led to the Great Depression.
Of course.
That led to the Second World War.
We cannot ignore
No,
these
we
histories.
cannot ignore. But that's how the populist agenda the people of United States of America has accepted. And the same thing has been done by the Mr. Mamdani through his election. I hope you remember, we were kids back then. The 1992 US presidential election. Here President Bill Clinton, he has actually taken, at his manifesto, he said that, we would go to the free trade agreement, but definitely we have to study those agreements, we have to study all the articles of this agreement, and we have to ensure the minimum wage. But that didn't happen. His Vice President Al Gore, who was also the contender for the president, both of them together, they basically continue or carry on with the agenda of free trade agreement, and that happened. So that's how the democratic characteristics of the Democratic Party has been lost. That's what happened in London as well. When Tony Blair, the Labour government, they have taken the neoliberalism and they have started the Tory agenda. So Labours were not Labour in the 90s. This is why, because that's what the realization of Bill Clinton was, that what President Ronald Reagan did, they nearly finished Democrat Party. So from that point of time, from that point, what President Bill Clinton did, he has taken that ended Democratic Party and he pushed it into the international arena or national arena. He has won the election.
Yes.
And what he was, and there is a similarity between Mr. Mamdani and Mr. Bill Clinton, according to my analysis, because they're very worried about the headlines. So what Clinton used to do, that he used to think much about the headlines. He used to think about the medias. Now the question is whether Mr. Mamdani would be able to pull off the manifesto that he has promised to the United States people, that he will give cheaper housing, he will give cheaper goods, he will give he will ensure free bus services, he will ensure universal health care. Now the problem is that from where he will get the fund. Now President Trump, as you have mentioned, already cut the budget. Now it's not only about President Trump only, because you have to understand the corporate taxes and income taxes has been it is generally been imposed by the governor of New York, Kathy, who is also a Democrat. But Kathy,
and she's against
she's not going to impose the income tax and corporate tax. So where he would get the money? So is it the fake promises? But of course, immigrants are happy. It's a battlefield where Democrat versus Democrat is always on the war. So Republican party was never on the was never a contender on the New York. But definitely immigrants are rejuvenated. They're very happy. But definitely you have to understand the condescending tone of Mr. Donald Trump that must have sparked against in the heart of the young generation who actually opposed against this condescending tone. That's what happened in Bangladesh. That's what happened in Nepal. That's what happened in other parts of the world.
And that trend has led to the winning of Zohran Mamdani.
Yes.
That was a very descriptive comment on your end. Of course, Mr. Zohran Mamdani has a very little amount of time to fulfill these promises in a situation, the House of Cards kind of situation, very nimble, very fragile. I want to come to Dr. Rizwana Karim Snigdha. Thank you for coming to the program today. As you were hearing Professor Shibli Islam, I understand that these promises are tied to the aspirations of the general people in New York City, and almost 40% of New Yorkers are immigrant populations, or they've been born in a different country other than the United States. I want you to comment on how you feel that this change is happening, especially that the Democratic Party seems to be changing against the Republican stance that Donald Trump holds.
Oh, thank you for having me in here. Yeah, it was really nice, so descriptive. Professor Shibli has been told us. But the thing is that according to my part, if you just in-depthly just analyzes all the turnover of the election in the previous, always immigrants was a very vital factor, because immigrants were over there, their rights, they are not only taken as immigrants, because they have suffered double sort of marginality over there, no matter what. Right. Even though you are an American, but you will be always treated as a second-class citizen. So these are the things which has been cashed out by Mamdani as well, because at the same time it has been happening with Barack Obama, if you can remember, right, when Obama was in such a position. So there was a huge crowd, because Obama was at the same time was black, and all those immigrants, all the issues fitted over there. And I can still remember one quotation of Michelle Obama, that's the White House which has been rebuilt by us. So that's sometimes you have some voices from the minority of the people. So Mamdani has taken the same act. Maybe yesterday night, I have watched one of Mamdani's interview. He said that he made a call with Obama, so right, because of this of his election or advice maybe. So that is the case, that immigrants are really very important for him. But what makes Mamdani and other previous leaders different, that if you saw very carefully, his idea of socialism, and also the idea of his when he was just circulating his election or manifesto, it was really very unique. And you never saw that behind or beside he tokenized the idea of Islam, yes, which is very unique. He didn't do that. Also, he was an activist, and within the party, he was an LGBTQ activist. He was an women rights activist as well, yes, which was not be celebrated. So he firstly convinced his own party, and when he came up, what he found, even when he just built his team right at this moment. The very first team, you say all other members are women, and he was the only man. So all those things not only create an idea of a Muslim leader just as a Mamdani, rather it's a pride of us that
Yes.
Muslim has been represented in a progressive and have the capacity, and which need to be celebrated. That's the important thing.
And not only so, the Supreme Court of America had said Prophet Muhammad to be one of those individuals that humanity had benefited from. And of course,
Exactly,
this
yeah,
is an
yeah,
issue.
that's the beauty thing. Actually, because you know, it was US policy. And we know after 9/11, there's a long ago, because the Islam has been treated as a militancy, and they weaponize this particular thing, and they attack different places, in particular Islamic countries. So at the same place, when we got the same city, New York, as a Mamdani, it is not only within the frame of America, it's more than that for the people like us.
There's
It,
international
yes,
acceptance.
international acceptance, and also the cultural understanding of our Muslimhood, or whatever you say, because this is really very problematic when the whole world has some sort of Islamophobia, and in particular the case of many other things, what is happening over there, we are just rising over, and Mamdani give us opportunity to
course.
think from a different paradigm.
Thank you, Ms. Dr. Rizwana Karim Singh. That was an outstanding observation regarding what is happening in United States of America. However, ladies and gentlemen, there are more topics that I will bring. Our production team is instructing me to go for a short commercial break. Do stay with us as we return.
সারা দেশে লাখো মানুষের কঠোর কর্মতৎপরতা ও নিষ্ঠায় এসএ পরিবহন পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস এখন 16 কোটি মানুষের হাতের নাগালে। দীর্ঘ 30 বছর ধরে বিশ্বস্ততা ও দ্রুততার সাথে সেবা দেওয়ায় গ্রাহক সেবায় এখন শীর্ষে। বাংলাদেশে গ্রাহক সেবার সাফল্যের পর এসএ পরিবহন পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস এখন বিশ্ব বাণিজ্য কেন্দ্র সিঙ্গাপুরে। আপনার যে কোনো পণ্য সিঙ্গাপুর থেকে বাংলাদেশে বুকিং এর জন্য যোগাযোগ করুন। এসএ পরিবহন প্রাইভেট লিমিটেড, লজিস্টিক্স পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস, 22 রবার্টস লেন, সিঙ্গাপুর 218302। ফোন 0065 629 24900। বাংলাদেশ থেকে সিঙ্গাপুরে পণ্য বুকিং এর জন্য যোগাযোগ করুন ঢাকা সহ দেশের যে কোনো 80টি শাখা কেন্দ্রে। এসএ পরিবহন পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস, আপনার সেবা সব সময়।
Welcome, Grand Palace Hotel, Dhaka. A majestic lobby blending timeless elegance with modern design. Experience 5-star comfort in suites and rooms.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to International Affairs. Today, I am joined in the studio by Dr. Rizwana Karim Snigdha, and of course, Professor Shibli Islam Onindo as well. We have Mr. Norman Floyd Barnes, who joins us from Washington, D.C. I understand that the U.S. government, federal government shutdown has hit the 37th day, becoming the longest in U.S. history. And of course, previously it was back in 2018 during President Donald Trump's 45th term, And not only so, the measure failed on a 54-44 vote, with no additional Democrats breaking ranks to support its advancements. But the question and the news in this element is that air traffic is to reduce in all 40 airports, according to the Transport Secretary. My question to Mr. Norman Floyd Barnes, how much longer do you think that it will require for the House to come to an understanding where the federal government can once again be reopened? I want to tell our viewers as well that it is definitely taking an impact in the American economy. Mr. Norman Floyd Barnes, How are you analyzing this?
Yes, the quick answer is will take forever. It appears that the Democrats and Republicans are at a stalemate, and they have little regards to the feelings and the opinions of the people. We have a situation that is evolving that is going to affect the holiday time. It's aviation travel. The Federal Aviation Administration came out yesterday with a announcement that they are going to reduce 10% of the air traffic in the 40 major traffic areas of the United States effective Friday. The reason for that is one, this holdout with the government budget is stressing the staff. We have people working in towers that haven't been paid this month. And we also have people who are furloughed. And we have people who are basically fatigued and tired. So that leads to a air traffic safety issue. We noticed yesterday we had a deadly crash in Louisville
Yes.
involving the UPS cargo plane. That's been investigated. But if we do not come to some type of conclusion, we can expect more of these type of situations happen.
And of
The
course,
FAA is putting it out that it's a safety issue now. So Congress has to come to terms and open the government up, figure out how they're going to do the budget, and we need to get on, because if not, we're going to have a lot more incidents happen. And the people has already spoken that they are not happy with the administration. The president's approval rating has dropped to 38%, and we have 68% of the people disapprove of it. That number will continue to fall if we stay in this stagnated situation.
thank you, Mr. Norman Floyd Barnes. I understand you were talking about the UPS aircraft that had crashed, and according to various news agencies, at least 12 people were killed in this disaster. And of course, the black box has been taken in for investigation. I want to come to Mr. Shibli Islam in the studio. You were hearing Norman Floyd Barnes in the situation with the federal government shutdown. Employees are tired, or government workers are tired. And not only so, there are people who are being removed from their usual jobs. It's creating panic amongst the regular citizens. And not only so, we see Donald Trump's reign over the last 11 months, how he has imposed tariff on various nations, even while the courts of the United States of America is saying otherwise. I know that during the break you were eager to talk about this issue. I just want your opinion towards our viewers as well.
Well, of course, there's a tension going on in New York and other parts of United States of America as well, and with the foreign relations as well. You know, I was talking about the 1920 and 1932 Republican rule. During that period, what happened, that President Harding, he did the peace treaty with Germany, Austria and Turkey, but that somehow sparked the colonialism as well, because then Germany, Hitler, Mussolini and Japan, they started their colony. They started
1945.
engaging war. So the America's role is very important in terms of world peace. Of course, United Nations Charter says that even Charter 27 says that any member will not interfere in any internal matter of the state until that very internal matter affects international peace and security. Of course, that's a fact. But getting the bigger players into the game, that's what UN did. That's what President Woodrow Wilson did in terms of UN Charter. That he got all the big players on the table, and UN did work well. At least we didn't have Third World War. So in terms of the reason of failure of NATO, because attack to one member of the NATO is attack to all. So that's America is not playing their expected role under the leadership of President Donald Trump. So because of 1920 to 1932, they called it the prosperous time of the United States history, but that led to the Great Depression.
As historians call
As
it.
history calls
the Great
it.
Depression,
His idol is President Harding. His idol is Perot. What Perot did, that he wants to segregate America because he wants the factories to set up. The problem is, who will be your consumers? If you segregate yourself from the other parts of the world, it's not possible. The absolute segregation of America in terms of technological and as well as business ventures with the other parts of the world, then who will be your consumer? The economy doesn't go out that way because of the laissez-faire policy. World Bank is even imposing the neoliberalism because of 1990 that we have agreed regarding the free trade areas. So definitely economy is going to suffer in the reign of Donald Trump, because that may be a populist statement. That's what will happen in terms of New York mayor as well. He has promised the big agendas. You have to understand, he's not Barack Obama. He's not the president of the country.
You have a set limitation
You
of
have
time.
certain limitations. You have to cut your coat according to your cloth. His big promises will depend on the Cathy, the governor of New York.
Right.
His big promises will depend on the MPs of New York, because he has to frame laws as well. Jack Schumer, who is also the very powerful Democrat politician and also
Yes.
the MP of New York, while he voted, he didn't disclose for whom he voted for, despite knowing about the fact, because all the polls have already stated that Zohran Mamdani is going to be mayor of New York. Jack Schumer, he didn't put weight on behalf of Zohran Mamdani. He said that whoever is elected as mayor, I will be working with him, because these agendas, you need monies, and the taxation will be literally on Donald Trump's agenda. It will be the Cathy's agenda, New York governor's agenda. So when you talk about cheap housing, when you talk about cheap grocery, when you talk about universal bus services, free bus services, universal childcare, healthcare, you need the support of the government, which to me is not visible in the scene. So you absolutely need, and there will be a big fight within the Democrat Party, because he won't have that money to, to go on with the agenda that he has already promised to the New York people, to the New York citizen. So that would be I'll be a close observer, because Mamdani is going to fail within 1 year. It's not going to take much time, because people want change. People want not only promises, they want promises to be executed. So I don't see these promises are executing in terms of Donald Trump, or even the Democrats come to the power. By any chance, I don't think that's not feasible in the future. So of course, the American economy is going to collapse. That's what happened in 1920 to 1932 towards the Great Depression, because Europe is united. Other than the UK, because of the Brexit, they came out of the European Union.
Right.
But you have to cooperate within the world community to get the progress of the country, to get the economy flourishing, which we are not seeing under the reign of President Donald Trump. That is the biggest problem. If you see the election results, if you see the 1992 election results, the Parrot got 27%. The other part of the non-reformist Republican, they got 20%. But President Ronald Reagan, President Bill Clinton, he got 42%. But still, you have to mix the policy, and you need support. So definitely, if the change doesn't come on the top like the president and the governor, I think it's very difficult for Mr. Mamdani to execute all the manifesto promises that he has done to the American public. And it seems very difficult.
An excellent observation delivered by Mr. Shibli Islam. That was lovely. You touched on some of the issues that Americans can relate to. I want to come to Dr. Rezwana Karim Snigdha. We were talking about Mamdani, but my question would be regarding how the United States have dealt with its surrounding neighbor. From what Professor was saying right here, is that Canada and Mexico, two of the borders, two of the countries that surround America, are sharing some kind of tension with America, especially regarding how Mark Carney of Canada, recently he had visited Donald Trump, and of course not only so, they had understanding between how they're going to negotiate these trade tariff talks, while in the Caribbean, Donald Trump has imposed strict rhetoric that there is some kind of drug issue in the southern Americas. So I want to understand how you are seeing this. Donald Trump is someone known to be causing ceasefire agreements between the two sides, yet in his own neighborhood he has almost a war front kind of effect. What are your observations?
Yeah, thank you for giving me the opportunity again. The thing is that, yes, Professor Shibli has rightly pointed out one thing, like economic problem is a very big threat for the country like US, because one of the reason is also for imposing this tariff to because of the they spend lots of money for military purpose, and last 1 decade or more than that.
1 trillion defense budget.
Yeah, so that's a big, huge amount of money. So I would like to add on that Mamdani, he just said that how does this money coming from? Because he committed that he wants to take the money out from that purpose. It's one of his agenda. So what is possible or not possible, that's a different case. But one more thing I need to pointing out, this economic crisis is not only limited into America. If you see, if you just look at the Canada or any European country as well, after COVID, so it happens. It's a big impact of the economical crisis. So once you talk about tariff, there's another issue also connected with China and American tension. That's a very, very important thing, because I have read one book as called Bilge's Problem. It's a very famous group. So sometime in your drawing rooms, the people who are elites and who have lots of capital, they actually plotted some sort of problem which makes them or gives them the opportunity how to create money. So that's the issue. Sometimes something happening over US economy. So that's, other than that, it's really hard, because for an example, the gun business. If the world doesn't have this type of terror or ceasefire, how does US will survive? Because their biggest industry is gun. So that's
the military
industry. Yeah, the military. Complex, it's a very big, huge industry. So if we live in a peace, if you are just celebrating peace, or if you are just promoting peace like other peoples do, then their business agenda will not fulfill. So that is another very important issue which need to be acknowledged, because whatever they are talking about, if you just check out their economy, what they are selling, their primary selling is that. So other than they have an imported economy, most of the things they are importing from different parts of the world. So right. How they will survive? So I think talking about this tariff is pointing the attention to another thing. Actually, they might have some other sort of big ideas which we never know, because they will never going to disclose what is their next move. Because the countries like Russia once upon a time, or even US, they are not going to tell us that what is their next move, so that the other people of the other part of the world can prepare ourselves. So that's the issues is going over, if you're going to ask me, because this is not only a political issue or the economical issue. This is an issue which is connected with capital, and also how we make money through where and all those things.
I think Professor Shibli had something to add on before we can go for a break.
I'll add on other things as well, because the point is that when you were adding tariff, basically that's what happened in post 1940 as well as post 1930, because when you bar immigrants to get into this country, when you have an anti-immigrant policy, that could destroy the agriculture of America, that could destroy because when you will get the cheap, from where you will get the cheap labors?
You'll have to import
and you have to admit those. And if you don't admit that, world doesn't run like this. Mr. Donald Trump, what he actually was successful to convince American people that you have lost your job, you have lost your all the social benefits, and I will project America again. So that's how he convinced. And in the meantime, this tariff war is going on well for him, because he is melting down every strong leaders into his knees. They're going to the White House and they're agreeing with whatever terms that he is putting in front of them. So that tariff war is going on well. That may be a populist agenda that could give him the headlines, but in the long run, United States of America is damaging its own economy.
Of course.
That's the number one point. The number two is, look, New York is a multi-dimensional cosmopolitan city. This is the number, I say it's a number 2 multi-dimensional city. Number 1 is London. So because it's a cosmopolitan city, it has everything, every religion, every race, every creed lives over here. So winning over there as an immigrant is very, it's very easy compared with the other parts of America. The problem is, when you go on a national policy, when you want to be a leader who will frame the national policy, you have to understand. We had an example of Rishi Sunak, the Asian Prime Minister of Britain. When he get into the election, it was very difficult for him to pass the election, and ultimately he lost the election. That will happen in terms of the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan. He is doing fabulous in West London. He, as a London mayor, he's one of the popular London mayor who is pretty echoes with Mamdani. Likewise Mamdani, he claims Gaza genocide.
Who is also criticized by Trump.
Yeah, he's also criticized by the Trump as well. So he actually criticizes the Gaza genocides. He criticized, like Mamdani, he calls for that intifada to be recognized. He calls that Ukraine war. He condemned Ukraine war as well. But the immigrated community in London, they accept him. But it's there is a probability that Mr. Sadiq Khan might be a Labour Prime Minister candidate. But that will be very difficult for an immigrant to be the supreme leader who can frame the policy. So at least you need blending, you need mixed up a policy, and you need cooperation between that white supremacist and the immigrants.
These are of course important elements to building a successful governing body for any kind of state, country alike. That was a lovely discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be coming back to the program, but we have to go for a short commercial break once again.
Fine dining restaurant, crystal clear swimming pool for ultimate relaxation, modern gym and serene spa for well-being, perfect venue for corporate events, weddings and parties, seamless and secured, elegant and eye-catching design. Indulge, relax, discover the first 5-star chain hotels in Bangladesh. Grand Palace Hotel Dhaka, 22 Kakrail, Dhaka, Bangladesh.
Welcome to Grand Club at Mirpur 10 Dhaka. Elegant spa and wellness facility for ladies and gents. Play pool and snooker in international standard billiard zone. World-class gym facility with exclusive equipment for man and woman.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the very last segment of International Affairs. We are joined by Norman Floyd Barnes in Washington, D.C. Of course, in the studio, we have Professors Rezwana Karim Snigdha and Shibli Islam. I want to begin the last segment with global climate change. My question to Mr. Norman Floyd Barnes in Washington, D.C. You know that it was not only Jamaica that was affected. Right now, as we speak in the studio, we are expecting to see Typhoon Kalmegi to make a landfall inside Cambodia, going through Cambodia, and of course it has affected Philippines. I want your remark as this devastation is continuing, and almost all the international media will record the fact that a devastation has happened but not do anything towards rebuilding the communities it has affected. Mr. Norman Floyd Barnes.
Yes, first I'd like to send my condolences out to the people of the Philippines for their devastating loss of people. They have several hundred people confirmed dead and a couple other hundred people unconfirmed. So we have to watch out and help them. As this typhoon moves across the South Asian region, we can expect similar type of incidents to happen all over the world. My take on this is that we know that the world is warming up. Temperatures changing, events going to happen. As we sit and fuss and fight over these petty situations, I'll call them petty situation, the world is changing and shaping. Unless we decide as a people on how we're going to address this situation, all these petty things is going to be overtaken by natural disasters, meaning the earth is changing, things are happening, and you think that you are protected, you have to think again. The water is getting warmer, the water is rising, other things are happening on earth. We have a shortage of water, clean drinking water. That is going to be an issue. Uh, Infrastructures. Several infrastructures are not up to standards, so we have to go back and try to rebuild situations that cannot sustain itself under the current situation. So we have to come together again. I know they're talking at the COP30 in Brazil,
Yes.
but they have to have some concrete measures together as a group of people globally. We have to decide how we're going to address these things and what precautions are we going to put in place and what assistance we're going to have instead of having wars.
Thank you, Mr. Norman Floyd Barnes. That was a great observation regarding global climate change. And I want the shift to my studio here. I'll begin with Dr. Rezwana Karim Snigdha. You know, Bangladesh is one of those places that are affected on a year basis. We at least have 2 to 3 cyclones in the Bay of Bengal. Not necessarily always making landfall through the mangroves of the Sundarbans, but you know, historically we've been affected. How do you think that we should adopt in these situations in the coming days?
Now, the thing is that if you talk about climate change, it's not something like as a climate for Bangladesh or climate for other parts.
It affects everyone.
It affects everybody because it is connected with each other. And of course, I must say, the reason of the climate change, the majority portion, the people we need accuse the countries which are very much based on industries, because they are creating carbon which cause global warming. And the thing is that when you talk about, we are not struggle with cyclone, we also struggle with saline water as well, because there are many places over there, there's a salinity, because it is also connected with our harvesting of particular pond, like we do that, so we make money for that. So another very big reason of an effect on the people, the coastal belt area. So when we talk about climate, it is very important to understand climate is highly connected with the culture as well. I am just giving you one single example. Like I have done my PhD from Auckland. So if you just go for, there's the only one place is New Zealand who gave the river, treated a river as a being.
Yes.
Yeah, as a being, like, and as a living being, like you and me. So what is coming from? It is coming from the belief of the Maoris, because they believe that the indigenous people, they believe that this is our mother earth and we are not supposed to do anything or harm anything. So historically, this indigenous people has been killed all around the world, and we create industry and ignoring them. Now when it is about climate change, we go back to them. That is very important, because we need to know, we need to prefer the local indigenous knowledge to create climate resilience. Other than it's not possible. So culturally we need to fight with that.
Thank you, ma'am, for this amazing comment and example that you used from a different part of the globe. I want to get a very last comment from Professor Shibli Islam. I know that both my professors and the panelists had difficulty arriving in the studio today, and one cannot ignore the traffic woes of our city, our beautiful Dhaka city. Do you have any remarks regarding this issue? I know it's not related to the name of the program, but it deserves recognition.
Well, it's preposterous it's preposterous the way the traffic is in Dhaka city, because it's the school time, everybody is coming out. When I was coming, road was blocked.
It's a Thursday.
Traffic is preposterous. The traffic system is incapable. Because I want to point out in every city of the world, you have been to London. I did my higher study in London as well. You've been to New York. You've been to Singapore. The traffic mayor controls the traffic, but here in Bangladesh, the police commissioner controls the traffic. So you have to have a right kind of strategy, because because there are so many coordinations needed in this country, and the thing is that the law is strict, but you need implementation. So we hope that the laws will be implemented in such a manner that traffic would ease and our city will be livable again.
Thank you so much, Professor Shibli, and of course thanking Dr. Rizwana Karim Snigdha to join in the studio as well. And we had Mr. Norman Floyd Barnes from Washington, D.C. Ladies and gentlemen, of course, as I draw closer, today is November the 6th. And of course, on this day in 1962, the UN General Assembly adopted a resolution condemning South Africa for its apartheid policies. And in addition, in 1860, common Americans elected their president, Abraham Lincoln. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in on International Affairs. I shall see you all next week.